Welcome to our July 14th keynote presentation. And our first topic is the publisher's desk. Challenges and spiritual progress. And it starts with a question to you. What is the relationship between challenges and spiritual progress? What do you think? A common perspective on major challenges is that we would prefer a life without them. Why would anyone want to face all these difficult times, to regularly wake up in the morning and be seriously challenged by life? Gurudeva held a different perspective. He stated, "This is why we are born on this planet, to evolve through challenges. We are here for no other reason." And the next question to you. How does facing challenges help us make spiritual progress? What Gurudeva is telling us is that it is actually by living through major challenges and thereby gaining better control over our instinctive and intellectual natures that we progress spiritually. So gaining better control over our instinctive and intellectual natures is the answer. We can compare this idea to Gurudeva's comment on being peaceful. He stated that it is fine to learn to be peaceful in a quiet place, but that eventually you have to learn to be peaceful in the midst of intense activity. Likewise, we need to learn the ability to have good self-control in simple daily interactions, but eventually be able to achieve self-control even when facing major challenges. Gurudeva gives a mystical insight into the secret of self-control, which is that what we experience in the world is a reflection of what is in our mind. You change your own circumstances all the time, whether you know it or not. Even your mind is different today than it was a week ago. The various experiences you have brought to yourself have made it that way. The point to realize is that you can gain an intricate control of the various things that change in and about you. Learn the thoughts and feelings of your creation. Lead the thoughts and feelings of your creation in the right direction and discover how quickly your circumstances will change their direction. This is the secret of self-control. This is the practice of yoga. Try it and lose the habit of concern, for concern is only a byproduct of a part of the mind being out of control. That's worth repeating. Concern is only a byproduct of a part of the mind being out of control. In other words, increasing your self-control is not just getting better at handling what is happening outside of us. It also includes right handling of our thoughts and feelings. Let me share a story that relates to self-control. On a regular basis, I meet with families visiting the monastery. Generally, it is in the morning after the family has attended the Shiva Puja, which is about an hour and 40 minutes long. If a family has young children, the children have already had to sit still for what to them is a long time. Therefore, when they come to meet with me, generally their ability to sit still has been used up, and they need to keep moving around the Guru Peedam room. This particular family had 2 young boys around age 4 and 6. The boys wouldn't stop running around the Guru Peedam. Their running around was of concern to the father, who felt the boys should be sitting still. The boys' running eventually catalyzed the father to share, "You know, I used to be a lot calmer before we had children." And my response, well, that's the challenge, to learn to be calm when you do have children. There's a relevant chapter on self-control in the ethical scripture Tirukural, in the section on family dharma. The verse reads, "More imposing than a mountain is the greatness of a man who, steadfast in domestic life, has mastered self-control." The meaning is self-evident. It is easy if you are single and live by yourself to master self-control for nothing to disturb you. But when you're married, have children, have major professional responsibilities, self-control is much harder to achieve. The goal is to learn how to face the extra challenges and be able to maintain self-control. Another context for looking at challenges relates to astrological periods. Vedic astrology is a technical subject, and the example that follows is a simplified one. We tend to think that astrological periods with lots of challenges are bad, and astrological periods where everything is smooth and conducive to being successful are good. What is missing from that perspective? What do you think is missing? That is true in the sense that it's easier to accomplish important tasks in the world when your astrology is free of major challenges. Astrological periods that have lots of challenges can also be viewed as good in that they are good for making inner spiritual progress through successfully facing the many challenges and thereby strengthening our self-control. I remember Gurudeva once said, "My astrology, meaning the current period, is so good that I have no challenges. I'm not making any spiritual progress at all." Isn't that a great statement? Reading of a challenging period from one chart is, this period is the start of a more inward journey during which you absorb and take in new information. It is also a time of real determination and giving up much superficiality in favor of in-depth learning and self-discipline. However, it can be a tedious and difficult period for worldly matters, and you are likely to be given extra responsibilities of one sort or another at this time. When it comes to challenges, we don't want to be overwhelmed. We don't want our lives to have too many challenges. But we don't want our lives totally free of challenges either. In working with a group of Hindu university students at a weekend seminar, I asked the question, what is needed to achieve moksha, liberation? The answer that was given was, you need to realize the self. This is certainly correct, but to a thoughtful person leads to a natural second question. What then is needed to realize the self? What do you think is a good answer to the question, what is needed to realize the self? The answer to that is not as well known. The answer is experience in the world. Sage Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras has a verse on the need for experience. What is experienced as the character of brightness, activity, and inertia, 3 gunas. It is embodied in the elements and the sense organs. Its purpose is to provide both experience and liberation. Twofold purpose. We interact with the world in order to provide both experience and, eventually, realization. In other words, we're not on earth just to go straight for liberation. We first need a certain amount of experience in the world before we will be able to achieve moksha. As we've mentioned, it is by experience in the world and in facing those experiences in the right way, such as strengthening our self-control, that we eventually end up seeking liberation. But we have to go through the experiences first. Gurudeva gives a mystical insight into what is provided by experience in his book Dancing with Shiva, Shloka 27. How is our soul different from Shiva? Our soul body was created in the image and likeness of the primal soul, God Shiva, but a difference from the primal soul in that it is immature. It is immature. While Shiva is on evolutionary perfection, we are in the process of evolving. Om. And another question for you. What does it mean to say we are in the process of evolving? Gurudeva's commentary on the verse reads, to understand the mysteries of the soul, we distinguish between the soul body and its essence. As a soul body, we are an individual and unique, different from all others, a self-effulgent being of light which evolves and matures through an evolutionary process. This soul body is of the nature of God Shiva, but is different from Shiva in that it is less resplendent than the primal soul and still evolving, while God is unevolutionary perfection. We may liken the soul body to an acorn which contains the mighty oak tree, but is a small seed yet to develop. The soul body matures through experience, evolving through many lives into the splendor of God Shiva, ultimately realizing Shiva totally in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Even after self-realization is attained, the soul body continues to evolve in this and other worlds, till it merges with the primal soul, as a drop of water merges with its source, the ocean. Yea, this is the destiny of all souls, without exception. The main point in the Dancing with Shiva shloka is that the soul body, called in Sanskrit Anandamaya Kosha, is maturing through experience in the world. How does this happen? As we mentioned before, it happens through an individual gaining greater and greater control over his or her instinctive and intellectual natures. Doing so is what causes the soul body to eventually mature sufficiently to attain realization of the self. Therefore, next time you are faced with a major challenge, strive to look at it as an opportunity to increase your self-control. Further mature your soul body and move that much closer to realizing the self. And our second topic is continuing the series of 64 character qualities from a character building workbook. Availability is the sixth character quality. How would you define availability? The workbook gives this definition. Availability means always being willing to help others. I practice it when I put others' needs for my time ahead of my own. Its opposite is unavailability. Gurudeva explained, the ongoing force of the soul in action brings freedom to the lower states of mind. The instinctive person is ordinarily so preoccupied with his own self, so wrapped up in his own shell, that he cannot give a thought to the welfare of another. Friends should help one another, uplift one another, stand by one another. A home is a place of companionship with people in it who love each other, who are harmonious and closer inside with one another than they are outside with associates in the workplace or with classmates at school. A home is a place that's so magnetic that it's difficult to leave. In a home there is love, kindness, sharing, and appreciation, and the inhabitants help one another. It's a place of selflessness and togetherness, where everybody has time for everybody else. Reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in availability. And our third topic, as usual, is looking at quotes from Yoga Swami's Words of Our Master. Weakness belongs to the body and mind. The atma is always full of strength. What does that mean to you? By experiencing the atma within, we can increase our strength. And a second quote. Debate and argument are not necessary. What does that mean to you? One interpretation is debate and argument are limited to the realm of the intellect. The deeper inner experiences cannot be adequately explained and therefore debated. Thank you very much. Oh.